episode 7.
10:20.
It is 10:20, September
24th.
24th. Is it 24th already?
Sure is.
Gee, will occurs.
September be sliding by. Time is a very odd thing because the months seem to go by fast. The days to the week for me go by slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then the years are very odd. First off, we haven't been alive for that long. You don't really know what a decade feels like because the last decade of your life has been a big transition period. Someone's like 50 can be like 30 to 40 felt like this, 40 to 50 felt like this. So they have an idea of what a decade feels like. We, on the other hand, do not. Anyways, episode 7. I don't know if you said that already.
Yeah, something about that. Are you ever not in a transition period in your life?
Some people seem to be working the same job for 20 plus years, doing the same thing, eat at the same restaurant.
But if you're either moving
Waiting for
forward or
their
moving backwards,
Well, I'd say they're moving backwards.
then they're transitioning backwards. Which is still...
No, I don't think. I think you can just be on a same position, same lifestyle, like you're doing the same things, but it's just slowly sliding, very slow slide, and it's not really like a big transition. What was that? There's an idea about how, like, you fix a problem by the same way it was happening, not by one big huge transition, but by a bunch of incremental slow ones. You know what I mean? Someone didn't get fat from just eating one meal. Very big meal.
Yeah, that is true.
So I think that, in my opinion, the idea that you're talking about, that you are only moving forward or backward, I do think that, but that doesn't mean that it has to be big, huge. It could be big, huge transitions over 3 decades, but it might take 3 decades to have a big, huge transition. You know, does that make sense? So... yeah, I think that, you're probably right. Everyone is always in a transition period, but it depends on what scope of time you're looking at it from. Because it does seem to be that most people are in the big, slower transitions, waiting till they get fat and sick. We're going to be dealing with the flies the entire episode, bucko.
I'm going to be shooting them. So it's going to be happening.
Well, let me see the gun so I can shoot it. Please land on him.
It was so funny, you know that old dude that I was talking to in his garage forever?
Yeah.
He came up and shot
He had
him.
he had the salt gun.
Well, I was sitting there, fly lands on my shoulder, and he's all, "Don't move."
Really?
I was like, okay. And I was sitting there, and he gets up and waddles over, grabs his assault gun. He puts a red dot sight on him, by the way. Yeah, and he's all, "Shit, my laser's out of batteries." And he's like, "Don't move." And he points it at me. It's on my shoulder. And he's all, "Got him." And I was like, yeah, he shot my shoulder. It was so funny.
Yeah, he's one of them good old boys.
Good old military feller.
Yeah.
Blasted him.
Salt on the computer.
Not too much.
Anyways. So what's new? C. Smith Ram, you got anything cool happening?
I'm gonna go talk to somebody at UVU about schooling this week. That's on my agenda. Floated the river last weekend.
Dope.
Even if I would have enjoyed it more almost if I wasn't trying to fish. I'll say that. Because there's a piece that comes from being by water for me, and then being on the water and moving with the river is just so enjoyable. So the sun is out, not too hot. It was like 67 degrees and sunny.
Perfect.
Floating down the river.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody, Liam's playing music, and Easton and Liam were kind of right by each other. I was by myself, you know, just floating down. I was like...
vibes are immaculate.
Just nice, dude. Catch some people. Some dude on a tiny little... Nobody wants it on their head because they don't want to get shot. Dude on this tiny little blow-up raft, like, tiny. And it didn't...
like 8 feet long?
Maybe 6 feet long. It was so small. And it was an odd little raft. But He almost died. We almost watched him die.
How so?
We were probably not died, but
Almost flipped.
there's one part where you have to go all the way to the right to make it through because like the whole left side is a big rocks, and Liam and Easton had already gotten there in front of him, and I was way behind. But he was going, and they were like, "Go over there, go over there," and he was just like, "Oh shit!" And he had to like get off and swim over, and he just swam to the other side and then walked around instead of went through it because he was like, "I can't." He couldn't steer it. He couldn't steer the thing. He just had one singular
In
paddle.
the A to B section, you could. My mom went through that on a paddleboard.
Yeah, I'm sure you could if you knew what you were doing. This guy, they were some boys from Salt Lake who rented the shit and had never been down the river before.
Oh, some good old
Goofballs.
greenies, guppies, as the Robinsons would say.
But the tunes are fun. Goddamn. The tunes are fun. I'm gonna get some new paddles. I'm excited to just take it out on the lake and go like fishing a pelican with it. That'll be nice. Or even like Red Fleet and Steinecker.
Red Fleet be dope.
Last time I went fishing at Red Fleet, there's actually a ton of bass and whitefish.
Yeah, the stripers.
Uh-huh.
Oh, then I guess if that's what you're calling whitefish, they're not.
That's not what I meant, whitefish.
Okay.
I meant wipers, because it's white bass and striped bass is what a wiper is.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, though. No, whitefish were something different in the river.
I bet that's what. The koi fish. Not koi fish. Squaw fish.
If there were koi fish in the river, we'd have a problem.
And yeah, the river's dope. That section of the river is so dope.
Yeah.
Underneath the dam, Fun Gorge. It's cool. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
World class fly fishing.
Yeah.
People pull out toads.
15,000 fish per mile.
Yeah. And who's counting? You know what I mean?
The DNR.
Right. Whatever that means. Yeah, my dad had the dopest job ever for the DNR. He got a government credit card, and they had the dopest boats, the NRS rafts, fully decked out, and everything's paid for except for beer. The food's paid for. He got to go. They would give him a credit card and say, "Go buy food for a 5-day trip for 20 people."
And you just got to go.
And he'd just go ham, and he's like, they wouldn't buy beer.
Steaks.
So yeah, he'd be a steak, lobster, chicken, all of the fire food. Camp Chef, go buy a new Camp Chef.
Yeah, that goes hard.
And then his job was you're not gonna believe this at all. For most of it, he worked for him for 6 years. For the majority of it, he ran a boat, and there's a biologist on the boat, and there's a shocker. So like, a dude, they'd have a car battery connected to like probes, and they'd go through like a back eddy where the water is real calm and flat, or like through the rapids, either way, different things for different things, right? And then they'd shock the water and then net all the fish.
And just
And,
count.
and the biologist would like pick certain ones out and do tests on them and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what the majority of his time there was. But also, like, just that alone, you're like, that's dope. Everything's paid for. He's the
Getting
DNR, so you can't get in trouble.
True.
Like, no one's going to pull up on you. You
Yeah.
are the DNR.
You're the guy who pulls up.
And he was burning doobies, eating mushrooms, drinking, having a blast.
Of
you know?
course.
And then the last few years...
Back before they could drug test for things.
Right. The last few years, he had the position even got doper, and they're like, we can't shock anymore, but what we can do is have fishing parties. So he would have to they would give him the task of, you have to find 20 volunteer fishermen, and you have to take them down the river and catch all the fish. The only rule is everyone on board has to be fishing. So he would just go get 20 of his buddies, and they would go down the river for 5 days, 7 days.
Have it paid for.
Have it paid for.
Oh.
They wouldn't make any money, obviously. They're volunteers.
Yeah.
He would be getting paid.
Yeah.
And they would be fucking fishing. And they would just have huge fishing competitions. He said the biggest, I think he caught a 10-pound catfish, and the way he caught it was everyone was doing all this special bait stuff and like all these different things. They had all these plans, and he just pulled his boat over, sat on the back of his boat, tied a hot dog onto a worm, and just dropped it in the water. 10 minutes later, he rolls in the fucking biggest fish.
Yeah.
Won the
That's hilarious.
I know.
Yeah, and a catfish will just like swallow it and they just kind of lay there when they eat too. So I wouldn't necessarily just rip the line out.
Yeah, so, and he was like, it's just right off the back of the boat. Everyone was like going to these big open waters, and he was like, I was just like, this will work. So anyways, he had the dopest job.
Yeah, that'd be a fun old time.
Yeah, he was like, before anyone could fucking, like, they were free. Getting paid, they were free. You're just fucking on the river for fucking 4 months out of the year.
Also, probably way less people on the river.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people now.
Right. Well, A to B section is shit. I mean, for river, like, the fishing's alright. Fishing's pretty fun.
I bet the B to C section is better fishing, though.
It has better fishing, but it's flat water.
Yeah.
Yeah. A to B is tight. There's one rapid.
Mother-in-law or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But then B to C is flat water.
Yeah, but I would...
Which is better fishing.
I was going to say, the next time I'd go for fishing, because a few reasons. One, flat water. But 2 and 3 is there's no walking trail alongside it like there is A to B. A to B, it does have a trail, but it like takes you up and around and shit. It's not always by the river.
Right.
So there's that, and then as well as way less people float it.
Yeah.
Most people that are going to just do a quick trip just float A to B.
Right.
Because the drive is short and all that, but
right.
Yeah.
No, and you could do the A to C section pretty easily in one day.
How long do you think that'd take?
Well, if you're in a pontoon, you could cruise. If you're pontoon cruising, it'd be a big day. Like, you could do it in like 6 hours. If you were like...
We were on the river for quite a while, but we were stopping a lot to fish in holes and everything.
Yeah, you could do like 6 to 8 hours on the river, though. So
yeah.
Like, then you'd have to be driving and stuff. But anyways, the Split Mountain, next Split Mountain trip we have... Oh, dude, we got one coming up, I think.
Coming up?
I know. Wait.
It's going to be fucking cold.
Oh, it already happened. It was at the start of September. But yeah, still cold water. Anyways, we'll have a few next year, and you got to go. You're invited all the time. You just didn't want to go.
I think I was somewhere when I was going.
You're like, you didn't even ask me.
You didn't even go.
No, I only went once this year.
But
it was tight. But anyways,
the water was
cold. When you go down that section, you'll be like, oh, because there's like maybe you'll see 2 boats.
Yeah, that's dope.
And the beaches are massively fat.
That would be fun.
There's bighorn sheep, and there's no trout, but a lot of catfish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's only trout at the top section.
Up at the top makes sense. Because the water gets kind of gross the further down you go. It's
just dirty. It's not really gross.
Yeah, it just looks gross.
It's just dirt. It's just dirt.
But like,
it's
the bridge out in Jensen that you'll go hop under to catfish?
Yeah.
You can't see more than fucking 4 inches into the water.
Yeah. But it's not because, like, it's sandy.
Yeah, it is just dirt. It's not like it's trash. But
no, it's not.
But when you're at the top, crystal clear water, I can look down and see 10 feet under and a fish swimming around.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. No, that river is banging. Do you know how big Flaming Gorge is?
Yeah.
Have you ever drove on it, like across it?
I've been to the Wyoming side and everything.
Massive.
Yeah.
Because all through Utah, it's this big on the map, and then you get to Wyoming, huge open waters.
Yeah, I've been on the gorge a few times.
Yeah.
Like boated around it, and we have some family friends who have the big. It's not like a houseboat, but it's like a massive boat that has rooms.
Yeah, the cabin cruiser.
Yeah.
There's a bass boat, ski boat, then a cabin cruiser, and then a houseboat is like typically a pontoon. But then there's big yachts.
It's kind of like a yacht.
There's micro yachts. We had one, cabin cruiser.
But
had like 3 beds on it, and then
we had 2 friends that had one, family friends, and then they had some buddies, and so they would just pull out, and they have floating docks in the middle of some coves.
Yeah,
and they just tie the big old boats to the docks.
Antelope Island. No, that's on
Antelope Flats. Well, Antelope Island's in the Great Salt Lake.
There's another island. Funny story about that, because we had our boat on. You've seen the boat we have. Because when it was newer, it was like the shit. But it's like I forgot how old. It's a pretty old one.
Yeah.
But anyways, we've floated to this island, like you're talking about, to the floating docks. And you get off and you can camp there. So we're camping there at night.
Yeah, that's dope.
And dope as fuck. Because there's like bathrooms and like you can kick it, right? Good fishing. And I was probably like 11 or 12. So I'm just fucking around in the woods, right? Trying to catch this snake. because there's snakes all over. And it was dope one. It was it had rings on it, like some colored one. I don't think it was poisonous. I really don't know though. But it looked so cool. So I was like, I want to catch that one. Chasing it all around. And then it coils up and it's sitting right in this bush. And I go like this to try and grab it, and it moves. Cactus. Grab a handful of cactus.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, like a whole handful. I
played you like a fiddle boy.
Yeah, bro. I pulled my hand out and I was like, oh, it's fucked up. But yeah. Yeah, that island's cool. It's definitely like, yeah, those trips are fun. Where you pack everything on the boat, you're going out.
The whole gorge is pretty sick.
Dude, fucking dope as fuck. Those huge red cliffs all around it.
Fun to jump off
on
of.
the Wyoming side by Lucerne is an area, and massive cliffs, big rope swing. And then there's this area, I'm just remembering it now. There's like these big, huge canyon walls, and the water's only like 4 feet deep, no wake zone, and you can just like creep through these canyons.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's actually super cool. And there's good bass fishing through that area.
Yeah, the smallmouth bass fishing there is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Me and Easton have gotten kicked off the docks like 3 or 4 times trying
For
to
fishing?
Yeah.
Dang, when we were there, we could fish as much as we wanted.
They do not like it if you fish on the docks.
Ah, because
Yeah.
behind the bathrooms?
Yep, that's where we were.
Oh, you'd slay 'em.
Because, well, you can go to the shore and pretty much fish the same area, but
No, on the docks is best.
right on the docks, you can just drop a Senko down and just...
Yeah, and you snag them. Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah, they
there's like
kicked us off.
little subculture of people that live on marinas. People come from all across the state and all across different states to go to Fleming Gorge, have their boat on the marina.
I don't know if you knew him, but there's a kid that was at our high school, and his family owned the biggest boat on the marina.
Braxton Cook?
Yep.
Yeah, me and him are friends.
Yep.
I went to the Christian Academy with him. Yeah.
Fucking,
His
that
mom
boat they
has
had was
the biggest hits. Yeah. Yeah, they had the biggest boat ever.
ridiculous
Yeah,
boat.
I think it was like 57 feet or something like
Fucking
that.
probably $1 million or some shit.
Oh, massive.
It was
Yeah. Well, we'd get on there. I remember, yeah, that's fun. Yeah, we used to hang out with him.
Yeah, one time me and Easton, Clint pulled up. He just had a little boat. Clint himself did. And he pulled up to put some gas in it at the dock. And then so me and Easton were going to go walk over there and meet him on the dock. And we had our fishing poles. And then we had gotten kicked off earlier for fishing on it. And then the lady saw us walking off. And she's like, nope, you guys get
Really?
off. And we were like, we're not fishing. We're just going to our boat. And she's like,
How old are you guys?
fucking 12, 13.
Oh, dude, that same age I was fishing every
We're like
day.
little kids.
You know what
so
we would
funny.
do too? We would my dad one day like, you want to make a little extra money? We're like, yeah. And he's like, go around to all these boats and ask them to take their trash off for $5. So we'd walk up to the boats and be like, we're taking trash haul. Because they have like these tote things you can wheel around. And we'd fucking make like $20 or so.
Not a bad move.
Grayson stole a fucking huge pack of lures from the store. We would do heists off the store because you just like, there's one worker. So you're like, can you come here and show me this fishing pole?
I need a strand.
Grayson's over there fucking shoving it in his bag.
And the fucking restaurant on it, too.
The Snag.
The Snag. I heard somebody said they went there and it was terrible recently.
It's a very odd place.
But I did get fish tacos there once and it was
Those are
quite
actually pretty good.
delicious.
You gotta go that little slaw on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that place is dope. It really is a cool place.
Yeah, there's a lot about the gorge to love.
But Vernal in general, if you're a good old boy, you got some extra dollars, you really don't need that much. Got a camper and a boat, you could have a ball.
Yeah.
All through the seasons.
All the seasons. You like ice fishing? You like snowmobiling?
Snowmobile, there's best places to snowmobile.
You like hunting? You like dirt biking?
Yeah.
You want
And
to
then-
just go play cornhole at the Elks Lodge on Wednesdays?
It's pretty tight. I get it. How it is just like it's a unique.
It
place.
will suck the ambition out of you, though.
Correct. If you're drunk and stoned all the time, you probably have a great life there.
Yeah.
Or if you're just a simple-minded person, which isn't bad.
No.
Some people are simple-minded. One thing that I've been thinking a lot recently is I'm like, damn, it kind of does suck to pay attention.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, because like the more you pay attention, you're like, like the deeper layers you think in. You know what I mean? There's the saying, you look into the abyss and the abyss stares back into you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fucking, it's true though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you can know of the world and not be of the world. So you
Explain more. Please tell me.
You can know about what's going on. You can know the reality and truth of things, but it doesn't mean you have to fully just give in to that. It doesn't mean you have to. You can know about politics.
You park downtown Salt Lake or downtown some city, say some other city because Salt Lake's not that bad, but park downtown and you're with your girl, and she's like, "Let's go over there. There's a store over there." And you're looking, and there's a bunch of thugs and homeless people walking, and standing in the alley. And you're like, "No, we're not going to go over there. It's 1 a.m. You're drunk. I'm not going to walk down that alley right now because I'm just with you. I'm not with my boys." And you could be like, "I'm not of the world," but like you walk down there and get mugged, and your girl gets slapped in the ass.
Yeah, that's not necessarily what I mean.
But I mean, like, if you know the consciousness of that, like if you're aware that bad things happen, and you're like, "We're not going down there," and you don't, well, you might have just saved yourself.
Yeah.
Does that aspect make sense? So then, but you can apply that same type of thing into a bunch of different things. That, like, you know how certain things play out because you're more aware and pay attention to things. So then that keeps you from also enjoying, like, to a certain point on the other side of that, it's paranoia. Yeah. Where you're, like, paying attention way too much and you can't just let go.
I know, I was literally, that's so funny. I was just watching a video. It was Young Thug talking about recording the song with Mac Miller the day before he died.
All right.
And he was like talking about it on this morning talk show or podcast or some shit. And then one of the first comments was all, "Did you guys see him make the devil horn symbol with his hands when he mentioned Mac dying? It's because Mac was a sacrifice and he knew." But he literally, like, for a second goes like this. Like, that's all.
Dude.
It's just like, that's full paranoia. You're just thinking way too hard into that shit.
Yeah, I do think with that, in that topic, especially online, like, there's got to be some agent provocateurs that are just fake bots that people put AI in, and they're like, make all these people go crazy, and they just know what to say, and they're just fake accounts. But then also, there's definitely real people that, like, they spend a lot of their life. Like the Diddy stuff, like, do you think anything that happened to him will affect you?
No.
And so everyone's just paying attention to it just cause.
Yeah. It's keeping up with the Kardashians, bro.
Right. And so, like, all that stuff, it's like, even if it is devil worshipping stuff, like, so what?
How does that affect you?
Correct.
What are you going to do about it?
Right.
Now, if somebody was like, it's devil worshipping stuff, I know it as a fact, and I'm developing an organization to fight it, that's one thing.
Right.
But if you're just
entertainment, gluttony, just to have something to think about.
And it's negative entertainment, too, because there is positive and negative entertainment.
Right.
And that's something where you think the world is bad now.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. There is something about, though, that when you're able to just, like, shut your mind off, either positive or negative, and just be, like, mindless. People want to do that because then you don't have to think. Yeah. Because when you think, your mind goes to, like, if it's wired the right way, it'll go to, like, what you're supposed to do, and then your anxiety and negative emotions are trying to tell you, like, hey, motherfucker, you're not living the life you said you were going to live, or that you're supposed to live. Yeah. But if you're just mindless, Carter, and you just pay attention to Diddy, well, then you don't have to think about that stuff.
That is true.
You know?
So don't pay attention to no Diddy.
Right.
Unless you got diddled by Diddy.
Yeah, and you probably didn't. And if you did, you probably won't, like, come on.
Didn't get diddled by the diddler. Alright, dude?
But
yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say I haven't seen stuff about it.
Right, and I'm like, I click on it, and then I'm like...
He had 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
Is that one of them?
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. The FBI confiscated like over 1,000 bottles of baby oil from his house.
It's very intriguing.
It is funny. I'll give it that. Like, the whole thing's so funny.
It hits on a lot of different...
And also, a trend that I've been seeing on Instagram that I don't like, I understand it, but I don't know the origins of it, is anytime there's a shitty ad for something on Instagram, do you know what all the comments say?
What?
Nice try, Diddy.
Shitty ad.
Like, you know how Instagram, if you're swiping through Reels, right, it'll have an ad. Look at the comments of it, and it'll be all, nice try, Diddy. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand where that came from, but it's it's funny how many people, like, it's not just one either. It's like 1,000 comments that will say, "Nice try, Diddy." And it's not bots, it's real people.
Maybe they're just meaning, like, I wasn't going to get fucked by that.
That's essentially, but I'm curious who started it, what the origins of such a thing were.
Right, I get what you mean. Anyways, in actual reality...
Yeah, let's go to actual reality.
Okay, so there's...
Not in actual reality.
There's 3 levels of being a man. The first is trading your time for money. That's where most people are at. The second is trading what you know for money. And the third is you just existing creates money. So it's like saint status. Rogan's to the point where he is like sects of haters. Like huge masses of people that, like, since he's so big, he has fans that will watch all of his stuff and then also simultaneously be like, he's not the way he used to be. Yeah. So that's how big he is. Right? You can't do that on the come up. People just hate you. They're like, you're a loser. But anyways, so like, those are the three different ways to think about it. Like at first, when you have no experience, no character, no anything, what you do have is time. So you could be like, if I was like, hey, I did this for 10,000 hours, people would be like, dang, that's pretty dope. And then you're like, hey, I did this for 10,000 hours, I got all this experience, now I'm going to tell you how to do it. And then people are like, fuck, that's pretty cool. And then when you're the brand and you're like the known figure for a decade.
I mean, what do you do when you want to look something up?
You go to the known person.
Or, well, what do you say when you're like, hey, you Google it?
What do you mean? Explain. Please do.
You're saying if you just want to be the thing.
Right.
If you tell someone, hey, can you Google that real quick? It's a literal verb now, instead of a noun of a company.
I see.
It's become such the thing you do that you Google
There's, Kanye West talks about this, and he was like...
The GOAT.
What do you want to be... So someone asked him, what do you want to be known for? And he's like, I don't want to be known. And they're like, what? And he's like, who made the stop sign? And they're like, what? He's like, who invented this?
Yeah.
And they're like, what? And he's like, exactly. They're so prominent that you don't even know them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that'd be the... Like, Kleenex is not a tissue, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone will say plasmid Kleenex.
Yes,
so I get what you're saying. Yeah, anyways, in terms of what we could do to do that, so I would say, obviously, right now, we don't have either the amount of knowledge needed or the ability to distribute the knowledge to the amount of people needed to be in the second category. Yeah, because one way of thinking it that I thought was like, one way that big businesses, at least from my perspective, are formed, are like do you know what Charles Schwab is? It's a massive investment fund, like all the Roth IRAs and stock mutuals and like all that stuff. Do you know what their like core thing is?
No.
We want to make it as easy as possible for people to send us money. No matter what kind of money you have, Carter. We'll send you a check, you fill it out, mail it back to us. Like, they want it to be as easy as possible for someone to be in stocks. Doesn't mean they're good. Doesn't mean they make money. Doesn't mean that you even get them after. It might take 30 years and you did one thing wrong, so you're not going to get it all. But at least in your mind, you're in the stock market. So that their whole basis is like, we don't have to have the best stocks. We don't have to have the biggest returns. We don't have to have the best policies. All we want to do is make it so you, with $50, can be in stocks in the stock market in a week from now.
Yeah.
And anyways, the whole idea to that in my head is like with business ideas and business ventures, obviously, like, creating value is what makes a business. If you don't create value in some way. But if you can create value conveniently and make it easier for people to choose you than any other people, you're just going to go with them. Yeah. Apple drops a new product. They don't have to advertise it. It's Apple.
I mean, they do advertise.
Right, but they don't have to. Like, for some, they might remind them about Apple, but, like, Apple's brand is built. So anyways, that seems to be, like, where the work is needed.
Yeah.
In terms of just making it so easy and convenient and so normalized that in people's minds it's like, hey, go get a box of Kleenex.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't even think of any other options. You literally just said a brand name, not even a...
Kleenex and, yeah.
See, get what I mean? It's like you just want to make it so easy for people that they don't even have to think. Okay, so I have this thought in my head, and it's like a very odd thing. I don't have any... I've tried to dive into it, but it's kind of like, I'm not getting very far with it.
I'll just lay it out.
And it's that there's a dark school of psychology and advertising and marketing. Like the fucking dark side. And they use all of the same knowledge that we have about psychology and marketing and advertising, but it's like a whole scheme to use it all to perfectly brainwash everyone. So like, and I've seen like weird videos and things about it, but also you don't really know what you're watching. But it's like subliminal messaging type things. You know what I mean? That are just throughout your life, and then they create you into a perfect consumer. Seems to be by design. It might not be, though. It might just be that that's the way that the advertise... Like, people in Pepsi are like, no, this is just the way that they sell the most, so let's just keep doing this. But in a paranoid way of looking at it, you could be like, all the companies do it this way. They're all banded together. They must have some big scheme. And that's why everyone's brainwashed into being a consumer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Occam's razor would state that it's not that. That's just the best way for them to make profit.
Which those two things are interlinked a little bit. Their best way to make profit is to have everybody be a thoughtless
Right,
consumer.
exactly. So is it directly done by that or indirectly a cause of that?
Yeah, that's a hard thing to answer. I was watching a video of this kid complaining about capitalism to somebody, and then the guy was like, well, you don't have to play into it. And he's like, but you have an iPhone, don't you? Or you have a smartphone, don't you?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And he's like, and you probably buy coffee once or twice a week. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, go live in a commune like the Amish do.
Exactly.
You don't have to do it. And the kid's like, well, it feels like I have to. And he's like, but you don't. It's just a lot easier.
Go move to a different country.
Yeah, go somewhere else.
As far as I know, and I have very limited knowledge about geopolitics and macroeconomics, but capitalism works the best. But there's not a perfect system.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So it's like with the we could tie it into this with the high vibrational systems that I'd be thinking about to create a life worth living.
Yeah.
Right? That produce the outcomes that you would most desire. You also have to account in those systems human nature. That you are going to try to take the easy way out. That you are going to be lazy. That things outside of your control will come up, and the shortcomings on that, and really just the dispositions that you were born with and developed throughout your life probably dictate your mood and things like that more deeply than you're aware of.
Yeah.
It's like you have to take into account human nature also, right?
Yeah.
And because what I think is like, I want to have systems in place that are like a fail-safe for human nature. Because in one way, I'm trying to be like in the modern world we're in, especially in America, you're like basically not forced. Obviously, nothing's forced, but like you're kind of forced into being a machine, right? 40 hours a week. You're supposed to have a car. You're supposed to have a credit card. You're supposed to have a bank account. You're supposed to have. So it's like in one part of you is a machine that like just shows up and is subservient to the like animal brain and to the like deeper conscious, right? So, but you can't just force yourself to do things. Like tell yourself you're going to do something and see how it works out. Not you're like your brain is going to try and sabotage you in certain ways to like not make it happen.
Yeah.
So obviously sometimes you're like, well, no, I've done things that I've told them, like yeah, but I mean like a machine now. It doesn't just work like a machine, but it does have a machine aspect to it. So how do we pose a question out of it? How do you account for the nature of a human in your in your systems. As Jordan Peterson would say, treat yourself like someone
that you love.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, which is pretty much what you just said, but I was gonna say, give yourself the same grace you'd give somebody else who you're expecting to do hard things.
So make a gap, like a distinction and a distance between the human animal, the systems, and there's a gap in between those because you are going to...
You are a human.
Okay.
You're going to have bad days.
Right.
You're not going to want to do everything.
If you're not hard on yourself and you don't have negative self-talk, how are you going to want to do it? Like, how are you going to keep yourself in line?
But that doesn't mean you can't be hard on yourself.
Okay. How do you be hard on yourself in the right way?
Well, I'll pose it into a situation.
Please do.
So let's say I set a goal to do 75 hard.
Okay.
And I'm on day 67 and my back goes out so badly that I don't even feel like I can walk. I try my best to go and work out that day, but I'm just like, this is making it so much worse. I can barely move now.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to finish it. If I sit there and be hard on myself about that,
it's not going to fix it.
It's not going to fix my back, and I'm not going to benefit everything.
Right.
But if I was doing 75 hard and I'm on day 69, and my buddies are like, well, let's go out tonight and drink. It's my birthday. You're not going to drink with me for my birthday? And I'm like, fuck, I'll just go out with them. But I won't drink. And then you go out and you're like, well, I'll just have a beer. And then you end up getting drunk. The next day, when you feel like shit about it, you should be hard on yourself because that's a very controllable thing.
I get what you're saying.
So the difference is the grace comes in things that you don't have. You have a little bit of control over everything. But like, the grace comes in when life does things to you that you didn't expect.
I get what you're saying. And obviously, in the situation that you posed, the first example is like you have to. Goggins says call an audible. Like he's got disqualified from races before and been like, I gotta quit.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta take the failure. I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna take the failure and then come back and win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think okay. So there is that part in there. That's like, and one thing about that is like. It could be obviously there's just things that could be thrown on you that are gonna make you have to call an audible.
Yeah.
But also there's things that you just didn't prepare enough. Yes. So like you can be hard on yourself in some ways for that, but it's like what kind of systems could you put in place that would allow for you to then reflect and have actual constructive criticism so that you're like, all right, instead of just being a dick to yourself, where in the process did you fall
How could I minimize the chance of my back going out?
Right. Yes, or like, yes, things like that.
Yeah,
because... So that's a good point, and there...
like, imagine, just real quickly, if it was... Like, who do you think you love most in the world?
Probably my mom.
Your mom. So now imagine if your mom was doing 75 hard and it had gotten to the point where she was in so much pain you could see it every time you saw her. Her face winced when she moves every time. Every single thing she goes to do for you, she's like, you could tell she's in pain, but she's like, okay, I'm going to go do my next workout. Okay. You'd be like, Mom, please just take a break.
We can redo this.
You can try it again another time.
That's a good way of phrasing it.
Treat yourself like how you treat somebody you love.
Okay. I like that. Sorry to step on your words at the very end there. No. But then I'll pose another idea. You've heard of the Knights, the golden. What's the thing they drink out of?
Chalice?
No, that has the
Holy Grail?
The Holy Grail. You've heard that premise of that story?
Honestly,
okay. Here's a very brief
it's like
explanation.
Cup of immortality.
Okay, so it's a cup of immortality.
And if you drink the wrong one, you die. And
then the only way you can find it is you for each night. There's a bunch of nights going in to find it. So like, you know what I mean by night? But, for each night, they have to go into the part of the forest which is darkest to you to find it. So it can't just be what's like socially perceived as the hardest. You have to go into the place that is the hardest for you. And the thing is that you have to keep going and going and going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then on the other side of that, there's the Holy Grail. And then that's when you get the potion, right? And become victorious. The reason that I'm posing this is because I've had this thought in my head that I'm like, it's going to take everything. It's going to take everything. You're going to think that you're going to die. No, everyone is going to tell you you're not going to make it. No one's going to be on your side. Your own family is going to be like, please stop. Please stop. Please stop. You're not going to make it. This is not going to happen. It's too big. You're not going to do it. You're going to die. You're ruining it for everyone. You got to stop. You got to stop. And to the whole time, you're going to be like, I always have the image of being like completely in the pitch black forest. And you're like, there's no one here. Nothing. No one. Except for yourself. And you have to keep moving forward, even though everyone around you is like, you're hurting me. Stop, please. And you're like, no, I have to. No, I have to. I have to. I have to. And then you have to finally, obviously, when you become victorious and reach the end to whatever that is for you, when you turn around and you have it in your hand, everyone around you is going to say, I knew you always could do it. I'm so glad you did it. Thank you for not listening to me. So that, there's a part, and I get what you're saying, and I do think they are in some way two different things. But to an extent, there is a point where you are going to have to go against everything that you've ever been told ever if you want to reach higher than anyone's ever reached. Because being unreasonable, by a just definition, is not being reasonable. So being extraordinary, you can't just be ordinary. Yeah. So everything in life, everyone around you is going to count you out. They're going to say, Carter, please don't do it. You already went through back surgery. You know that this is going to hurt you. And you're like, no, I have to. So then in those moments, like, I guess people are just born with it because most people will never reach that far. Basically, everyone will never reach that far. And it's because of all the things that we were talking about. Because you're like, well, let's think logically about this. It's not going to be good. Let's think in the box. It's not going to be in your best interest. You're going to ruin your whole life. But then, like, the book I'm reading, Shackleton, that's the entire story.
Yeah.
It's like literally every single step is like,
you've got to be stupid enough to not give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like at a point that plays into it as well. I guess only if you're trying to be extraordinary. Because like for me, like if you lay out the typical American dream of like, you came here broke, bottom of the barrel, you worked your way up, got beat down, cut your teeth in a hard way of work, got broke, dumped, everything sucks, your life is hell, you go to jail, whatever it is, you get out of that, and then slowly start building from the ground up, get to the point where you're like, I'm here now, and then you're able to be the person that you always wanted to be when you're at the bottom, right, that you always needed, right, become the person that you always needed.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I got the house, I got the thing, I got the car, I got the wife, I got the family, got the summer home, right, and you're like, everything's good, and it's like, that still, even in my head, is boring.
But you're still average.
Yeah, in my head, I'm like, that's still boring. Like, that would make me go crazy. You know what I mean? Because think of, like, put yourself there. You're like, I really was only cut out for this. You know what I mean? Because that's still in the box.
Yeah.
So, like, if that's what you want, then that's awesome for anyone listening. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that.
And it's also going to be a lot easier if that's what you want. You can accept that.
Unless you can accept that, and then it'll be always hard.
Yeah, unless you're just lying to yourself.
Exactly. So I guess it comes down to, there's a verse in the Bible that I really like, and it's a very simple one. And I don't know where it's from, and I don't know what the context is, but I take it my own way. And all the verse says is, know thyself. And like, think about that, because it's like, you could do a bunch of things for other people's reasoning.
Yeah.
You could do a bunch of things. You could live a whole life for other people.
Yeah.
But if you don't know yourself, You're not doing. You know what I mean? What kind of life is that? Yeah.
Know thyself.
So.
Quite simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say you're more of the type of thinking that you would want to take the safer route or take the extraordinary route?
Well, I don't want to be normal and average. I can tell you that. I don't want to be what my parents were.
In all ways. Obviously, there's certain things that you probably would like to continue. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But I don't necessarily... I think currently in my head, I care more about helping people than getting stupid rich.
Okay.
Because if I wanted to get stupid rich, it would probably be, one way or another, be through taking advantage of people.
I would say that would be one way of looking at it.
But I do want to be somebody where my grandchildren can, when they're like, write a report about somebody in your family who did something great. I want to be the first
Undeniably.
person. I want to be the one that comes to mind right away.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I want them to be like, well, my grandpa changed the way people think about back health. Or my grandpa changed the way my family thinks about life.
Change the whole trajectory of the bloodline.
Yes. Yeah, and give them shit to write about.
All right, so are you willing to sacrifice more than you're wanting to? Are you willing to... I'm sure the cost of something along those lines is going to be much bigger and 10, 15, 20, 100 times more work than you could even imagine right now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Obviously, if I bet if you've seen the full amount of work that it would take to do it, you would be scared to never do it. But the great thing about life and our reality is like you can't see that far ahead.
You don't get to know until you're there.
So, what would you... I guess that's I mean...
And you never regret the work that you did to get there once you're there.
Depends on what you had to do.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
When my grandpa, who is quite wealthy, I have had conversations with him where he was like, yeah, because I think I said like, so he had just gotten a brand new D-Max HD. It was like a $90,000 truck. And I was like, God, Grandpa, that's a sick truck. That's so nice. And he's like, yeah, the truck's nice, and the house is nice, and the camper's nice, and going on vacation is nice, but I don't have that many memories with your mom or your uncle. He's like, I wasn't around that much when they were growing up. I was always working, and sometimes I sit here and wish I would rather have a smaller house and a less nice truck and a crappier camper. I would trade it for memories with your mom and your uncle. I was like, yeah, I can see that.
Right.
So, there's that aspect of things.
Right. But to think that you couldn't
do both
to the best of your ability. So then he was like, I'm glad that I have all the stuff, but I'm more glad that I tried my hardest to spend as much time with your family as I could.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's like, one idea of thinking is like, the type of skills in life that you had to live to get to the part where you want to be aren't the skills that you're going to need when you get to the part where you want to be. You have to change those skills. Like building a business is probably a different, or like on the come up to creating wealth is a different skills than you need to preserve the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like on the come up, you're probably going to have certain more head down focused type of lifestyle. But as it's increasing and your leverage is increasing, so your work output is staying the same with the work input being lesser due to the facts of leverage, you then would have to reestablish like time management and how much time you are spending with your family. right?
Yeah.
But regardless, I don't think anything good or big happens without extreme amounts of hard work.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
good work, whatever that you're
I
doing.
agree.
So, like, you're not going to be someone worth writing a story of unless you sacrifice and make some people mad.
Yeah.
Like, this one dude was like, if a good negotiation, a good
Everybody
deal.
leaves a little bit upset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Because if one person left, they're getting a better deal than the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so you're not going to be able to make your future family entirely happy if you want to be the way you want to be. And you're not going to be able to make yourself fulfill every single box that you wrote on your list if you're also wanting to be a part of your family.
Yeah.
And that's where knowing myself would be like, what would I do in this situation if I'm walking this tightrope? Do I go to little Timmy's football game or do I go make $50,000 right now? And it's like, well, I bet at the start of your career, right now, you'd be like, sorry, buddy, I'm going right now.
Yeah.
But towards the end of your career, where you're like, I'm already going to make $500,000 this month. What is $550,000?
Yeah, but the other thought around that is, you don't know where the end of your career is, but you do know that it's little Timmy's football game today. You don't know how long it's going to take where you have to continue to sacrifice that time.
Right, but you would know if you had a business and it was producing X amount of dollars a month. And you're like, I am producing this much this month, regardless if I go to this game or not.
Yeah.
So if I go to this game, is it really that big of a... Because then another thing is like, how bad of a situation would it be in where you don't want to be a part of your family and all you want to do is work? So then you actually don't. So then you doing it is not only being inauthentic for your family, but also you just don't find any joy in it.
Yeah.
So then you have your fucking whole ship upside down.
Very true.
Yeah, which I'm sure people are in. They're like, fuck, I wish I didn't have 5 kids right now.
Not only do I hate my job, but I also hate the fact that I have to go home and deal with my bitch wife.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think
That's what happens when you're not true to yourself and you
right.
continue to lie.
So how do we stay true to ourselves? Let's end on this idea. How about?
I would say one idea is find people you trust, whose opinion you trust, and ask them, do you think I'm being true to myself in this situation? It's a lot easier for somebody who you're like, okay.
Yes, man. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure, man, you're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas a true friend and somebody who you're like, I actually respect this guy's
Or
opinion.
even your parents, to an extent.
Parents are a good one.
No, but I mean...
They can.
They would be like, no, you're right.
Yeah.
I raised you right. You're always right.
But find somebody who you truly trust their opinion, and not because they make you feel good with what they say, but because they make you think with what they say and actually question your bad decisions.
Okay.
And ask them in that time, am I acting true to myself? And then they'll be like, doesn't seem like you, man. It could be as simple as that.
Right.
Or they'd be like,
okay, so
yeah, that seems like something you do.
That's a good one. And then, yeah, that's a good one. And then, also you'd have to develop the type of humility and skills and ability to be introspective enough to be like, and you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also you'd have to be able to be like, and you're right, and I don't know what to do, and I need help trying to get there.
Yeah.
Because your friend would be like, you suck in this field. You're not being true to yourself. You probably don't know what you're doing. Here's a little bit of direction. This might work for you.
So surround yourself with people whose opinions you trust.
How do you find people like that?
Put yourself in situations where those kind of people are required. If you never put yourself in a difficult decision or situation that requires a hard decision, then you're not going to be around people who have to make hard decisions.
Right.
So,
how do you put yourself in situations like that?
be ballsy, Be risky. Do
What's
hard
something?
things.
What's something right now that we could do that's ballsy, risky, and hard?
Starting a business that requires the small amount of capital we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if we were just like, we're gonna fucking make soap bars, but it takes $5,000 to get the machine to make the soap.
Right.
That would be risky for us currently.
Right. Instead of spending money on an ice bath and this and a coffee stand that we don't actually need, and these things, Blackstone grill we don't actually need. Instead of spending the next $2,000 that we were going to spend regardless on something that's lame.
Spend it on a business.
Spending on yes, or even just like being like, we lied that we said we were going to go to Thailand. None of us even did anything one time to even try it a little bit at all.
100% true.
But so obviously, in my opinion, from what I've learned, like that goal's, even though you don't want to, this is where humility does play in, because you would have to be like, well, I need to lower my self-esteem to the point where I have a set of goal that I would accomplish, that I can accomplish, that I should accomplish. So then something along the lines of like, in one aspect, like, even though climbing up Timp might have seemed like a very, like, not crazy thing, in one aspect that could be a boundary, and on the other aspect, like, Thailand's too far. So what's something more in the middle? What would you say for the business?
The business is one. I mean,
Okay. But yeah, the reason I'm saying that, because even like a trip somewhere,
I was going to say,
hard.
a trip to do the Appalachian Trail. It's on the other side of the country. It costs money to get there. It's
The thing's massive.
1,000 miles or more. It's like 2,100 miles.
Right. A chick just ran across the
I
strait.
saw that in like 40 days.
Ran across the strait. That chick's a badass.
Oh, fuck. And she was doing 2 marathons a day for 40 days. Yeah. Something ridiculous.
Yeah. You don't
like
think
that.
she has people in her corner that are bad as fuck? Because she did that with supported, I'm sure, with people around her.
But the crazy thing about it too is there's only like 9 people there at the finish line for her.
And I bet those 9 people are bad motherfuckers.
I'm sure. And
so what is it then? Because like, it's cool to say that out loud, but it's like,
what should we actually do?
right. And if you'd like to hear the rest, subscribe to our Patreon.
Tune into the pad.